Well, g'day curd nerds. Today we're going to learn how to make pepper jack. Well, this very special pepper jack, I've actually made it, well, I'm going to call it triple pepper jack, because not only does it have chili all the way through the Monterey Jack, it also has chili oil on top, and I've used a Chipotle Chilli Powder that I've used as a rub all over the cheese. Very interesting. Hopefully it's going to be one of those very spicy cheeses that a lot of people love. Anyway, enough waffling. Let's get on and see how we made the cheese.
So the ingredients for this cheese are 10 litres or 10 quarts of whole cow's milk, an eighth of a teaspoon or 0.75 millilitres of Mesophilic direct vat inoculated culture, or you can use 1 cup or 250 millilitres of buttermilk. I'm choosing to use buttermilk in this cheese. Half a teaspoon or 2.5 millilitres of calcium chloride, half a teaspoon or 2.5 millilitres of single strength liquid rennet. I'm using IMCU 200. 2 tablespoons, that's 30 millilitres of non-iodised salt, 2 tablespoons or 30 millilitres of dried chili flakes, and the next two are optional. You can use a Chipotle Chilli Powder for rubbing or Chilli Infused Olive Oil for rubbing as well. Now I'm turning the heat on there. Now I've got my 2 tablespoons of chili flakes there, and I'm going to add those to 2 cups, which is 500 millilitres of water in a saucepan. So I've got the water there. Now I'm going to turn the heat on, bring that to the boil, and then simmer for 10 minutes, and that'll make all of the chili flavour impart into the water. Now once that's done, cover that and allow it to cool. Now I've poured out my Mesophilic starter culture in the form of buttermilk. I'm using 250 millilitres or 1 cup of buttermilk in this recipe. So we're going to heat our milk to 32 degrees Celsius or 90 Fahrenheit. And once it's reached the target temperature, we're going to add in our preferred starter culture. Now, as I mentioned, I'm experimenting with this cheese and I am using buttermilk, but you can also use your Mesophilic starter culture, the direct vat inoculated freeze-dried version. Anyway, I'm pouring my buttermilk into the milk. Make sure I got it all in there. And within the buttermilk, there are Mesophilic starter cultures already, which is fantastic. So if you're short one day and don't have your Mesophilic freeze-dried powder, then you can try using buttermilk. So give that a good stir all the way through to make sure the buttermilk is mixed through your milk. So once that's done, just take all your utensils out, cover and allow to ripen for 45 minutes at the target temperature of 32 Celsius or 90 Fahrenheit. Okay, once the time has elapsed, just give that another stir so that we can measure the temperature and it's all even. And the temperature has dropped down a little bit by 1 degree Celsius, but that's okay. So we're going to add in our other ingredients now. I'm going to add in my calcium chloride. Now I'm using pasteurised and homogenised milk. I decided to go for the cheapest milk I could get, but it wasn't ultra pasteurised, just normal pasteurised. Now I'm adding the calcium chloride back in to restore some of the soluble calcium that was lost during pasteurisation. Now the next ingredient going in is the rennet solution. That's mixed with a 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water. And we stir that all the way through the milk for no more than 1 minute. Okay, that's stirred enough. Pop the lid on and we're going to allow the milk to set for 40 minutes at 32 degrees Celsius, 90 Fahrenheit. Okay, once that has elapsed, I'm going to check for a clean break. Now I'm just using my knife and then flip it on the edge and then lift it up. And if it looks like a nice clean line there, which it does. That's fantastic. If you don't get that, then wait another 10 minutes and then check it again. Now I'm going to cut the curds into 1.25 centimetres or half-inch cubes. So I've just done the horizontals there with my curd harp, and I'm doing the vertical cuts with my curd knife. Now, if you don't have a curd harp, then just angle your knife at 45 degrees and do that all the way around, and you'll get a fairly even sort of cube. So I'm just doing the perpendicular cuts there. I've done the first cuts one way, and then I'm at a 90-degree angle, I'm doing the other cut. Trying to make them as even as I possibly can. Okay, just making sure that they're all cut through. Just a little quick stir there. And then I'm going to let the curd cubes heal for 10 minutes. Now, I normally only let them sit for 5 minutes, but because it's pasteurised and homogenised milk, I thought I'd leave that additional time so they firm up a little bit more. So we're using the spoon to lift and move the curds around a little bit, just gently at first to ensure they're all cut. And if you find that you have some big large chunks in there, then just cut them with the side of your spoon as you're stirring. Now I'm reapplying the heat because we're going to stir for a while and heat the milk up. Now this heating phase, which is going to start in a minute, allows a lot more whey to be expelled. Now the temperature's dropped down nearly a 1.8 degrees of centigrade, which is okay, but we're heating the milk up now. So we're going to gently stir the curds for 40 minutes, slowly heating to 38 degrees Celsius, 100 Fahrenheit. Now, as I mentioned, we do this slowly because we want the whey to be released slowly from the cube curds. And you can see there they're fairly small there after the 40 minutes of stirring. And we're about 37.8 Celsius. But once you're at that target temperature, we now stir for another 30 minutes. This is going to release even more whey, and the cubes of curd are going to be a lot smaller. So 30 minutes later, they're even smaller. Just check the temperature, make sure I was at the right one. We got 37.8, which is what I started with. So 38 we're kind of aiming for, which is 100 Fahrenheit. Okay, I'm going to do the magic test now to make sure that the curd is sufficiently stirred. I'm going to grab a handful, gently squeeze. Now, if they form a ball, that's fantastic. And if the ball can be broken apart just with your thumb like that, then it's ready to press and drain. Now, if it's not, stir for another 10 minutes and then test it again. Okay, over to the sink area. I've got a cheesecloth lined colander there, and I'm just pouring the curds through and draining them off. Now, once you've got a fair bit of the moisture out, I'm just lifting the bag there a little bit. I'm going to put it back into the pot. Squeeze out your cheesecloth because we're going to need that again in a minute. Okay, now we're going to get our chili mixture. That is now fully cooled. And we're going to tip the chili flakes and the chili water into the curds. Looks like a nice dark red there. Now we're going to gently stir the chili and the water through the curds to impart a nice chili flavour. Now I did taste it at this stage. They are very hot, but that's good. Now we're going to get our cheese salt, which is basically just non-iodised salt. And I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons there. Now, when we do mill our salt through the curds, we make sure that we are not too rough with it. If you start seeing the whey become cloudy, you're overworking the curds, just releasing too much fat, which we want in the cheese. So, sprinkling the second spoon there, and we're just going to gently mix that through. Okay, that's good enough. Now we're going to grab our cheese basket. Now I'm using a 165 milliliter, or I think it's a 6-inch diameter cheese basket. Line that with the cheesecloth I had before, and now I'm going to fill it with the curds. Get it all in there. Now this is the best way to make sure that your chili flakes are evenly distributed all the way through your cheese, is by milling them in first. Don't try and make layers or anything like that through the cheese. It just doesn't work. Okay, so we're going to press the cheese now for its first pressing to form the initial rind. So I'm using a spring press here. So we're going to press it 15 kilograms or 33 pounds for 1 hour. And that will help close up the curds and give us an even looking rind. Okay, so an hour has elapsed. I'm going to remove the cheese from the press. Now just be gentle at this stage because it may not have formed correctly, but just be gentle. And that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to flip that over gently, smooth out the cheesecloth, put it in the middle, and we're going to rewrap that. Oh, just a quick snap there. Now we're going to press it at a higher pressure now, 22 kilograms or 50 pounds for at least 12 hours. Now usually this is overnight. By the time I finished putting it into the press, it was about 8 o'clock at night, so I'm ready to take it out at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's my spring press fully closed, and that gives me a good indication that's about 50 pounds of pressure. Okay, so the next day, we're going to remove the cheese from the press. Now I found that it was very tight in there. So we're going to remove that from the press. We're going to air dry for 2 to 3 days. And we're going to turn twice daily until touch dry. Now there was a bit of a burr, so I cut that off because normally I find that mold actually harbours in those bits. That's the first place mold likes to grow. Anyway, so I tried a little bit of the curd and it was very hot, as in spicy hot. Okay, so we'll put that on the side. And we'll air dry that, as I said, for 2 to 3 days. So this is after 3 days, and you can see that significant drying around the edges, and it's touch dry to handle. Now you can see the Chilli Infused Olive Oil I'm going to use there, and the Chipotle Chilli Powder that I'm going to rub it with. So we're up to the rubbing stage. Now you can skip this if you want to, if you think it's going to be hot enough, but I thought, what the heck? I'm going all the way, and we're going to have a triple pepper jack. So a bit of the chili infused olive oil, and I put that over all surfaces, and this is going to help the chili powder to stick to it. Now the chili powder itself was more smoky than spicy, I suppose. So I put a teaspoon over each surface. So putting that over all of the cheese. The olive oil helps it to stick, which is good. So I'm rubbing that in, hoping that the smoky chili flavour gets imparted into the cheese itself. So this is the first rub cheese I've actually ever made, so it's going to be very interesting to see what it tastes like. Looks good. Okay, so just a quick rub to make sure it's all even all over the cheese. Any bits that are on the board, I certainly put them back on again. There we go, that looks really nice. So just on the bamboo mat for a second until I decide what to do with it. So I'm just going to dry off my my chopping board there, pop it on top. Now there's a decision whether you want to naturally ripen this or vacuum pack it. So if you're going to naturally ripen it, do it at 10 degrees or 10 to 13 or 50 to 55 Fahrenheit at 80% relative humidity for 3 months. During the first week, twice weekly for even ripening, and then once a week is fine. Now I'm going to choose to vacuum pack because I want the flavours to infuse into the cheese.
So this one was my absolute favourite to make so far this year anyway. A lot of love went into this cheese. Obviously I made it in the Monterey Jack style, so therefore it is an authentic pepper jack cheese. Not only does it have the dried chilies through it, as you saw, but the oil, chili infused oil, as well as the Chipotle Chilli Powder that I used as a rub all over the cheese. I'm going to mature this for 3 months. I'm kind of tossing up whether to do a natural rind or vacuum pack it. I think vacuum pack can be much better, and it'll help the chili rub to infuse into the cheese itself, get a little bit more kick of flavour. So for those that don't know, the Chipotle chili powder is actually a smoked chili that then they dehydrate and grind. So 3 months time we'll come back and do the taste test for this one. So if you like this cheese, don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you can get notified of interesting cheese videos as I publish them. This show is also supported by our patrons. They contribute financially to the channel, and if you want to be a patron, check out the link below. You can buy the cheese making kit over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au. I would highly recommend the hard cheese kit. Anyway, curd nerds, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.